I'm 19 and I stayed over at my friend's house. She's 19 as well. She has a small bedroom in the back of her house. We were watching a movie in there when she fell asleep. I continued watching the movie until I heard her say, "He's here." She is the only one that lives in the house. I froze and turned my head. When I saw that she was still asleep, I thought it was a joke or just her having a nightmare. A few moments later she said, "He's in here." So I told her that this wasn't funny and she needed to stop. Suddenly I heard the front door lock rattling. Immediately I shook her awake and asked if she was expecting anyone. She said no and went to bedroom door and locked it. I called 911. As we were waiting we could hear this person rifling through the drawers. Then the house got silent. The footsteps stopped. We waited a few seconds and wondered if he had left. Suddenly the door began to rattle as they twisted the door handle. Suddenly a voice said, "I know you're in there. Let me in. I just want to talk." My blood ran cold when we realized who it was. It was this man from the local store. He'd always been flirting with my friend and she always turned him down. He was greasy and weird. He would always try to smell her hair. When she didn't respond, he started pounding on the door and screaming that she needed to open the door or he would kill her. We heard the sirens coming down the road. He tried to sprint away but the cop hit him with his car when he ran across the road. We ran outside to see what happened. They detained him and took him to the hospital. As the cops looked through his vehicle, they found a knife, tape, a roll of plastic and rope in the trunk. Less than a week later at the trial he pleaded guilty and told the court what he planned to do that night. He said he was tired of her refusing to go on a date with him. He decided that if she wouldn't go out with him then she wasn't going out with anyone. He was planning to kill her that night and bury the body. I guess he didn't know that she had a guest that night. If I hadn't been there I don't know what would have happened, but I know I probably wouldn't have seen her again. I was 9 years old when my family moved from the big city to a small town in Illinois. I was excited for the move because we had always lived in a cramped apartment. When we got there it was like a little old farmhouse on a field. After a week I was tempted to check out the woods. From my window it looked dense and deep. But my mom promoted me to go, so I went. When I was a few 40 feet in I saw a well. I was a little shocked because why would there be a well in the woods? I got this weird strong urge to get closer, so I did. I looked in and it was very deep. At the very top there was a bucket. I realized it was an old water well that you would use to get water out of. I was a little creeped out because there was not reason for this to be in the middle of the forest. I was about to leave when I heard a voice call to me. This voice called my name. I stopped in my tracks. I didn't move. I didn't breath. I stood there for a moment when the voice called my name again. So with all the courage I had I turned around. I walked over to the well cautiously and looked at when it spoke to me in a low tone, muffled, female voice. It told to turn the wheel to lower the bucket that would bring up water. That weird sense of urge came back to turn the wheel. So I did. Slowly as I turned I could hear the old creaking. As the well was old, the bucket had been lowered. I hear a squash. It sounded as if someone was stepping in a pile of spaghetti, but the sound was really uneasy. The voice had come back. It told me to lift the bucket. So I did. I heard that same creaking sound as when I had lowered it earlier. The bucket was heavier than when I had lowered it, so I could tell there was something in it. When it reached the top it had a sheet on it. Out of my curiosity as a child I lifted the sheet. To my horror there was a head. It was of a man that had gone missing a few months prior. In my shock I got a rush of adrenaline to just run. I ran what felt like forever. When I got home I was crying and still in shock. My parents were both very worried and asked me what happened. I couldn't even mutter out a word. Finally I was able to tell them what happened. It was a vivid memory of what happened, but they got the point. My dad asked me to show him where the well was. At first I didn't want to, but he told me that if this was true he needed to see the well. So I once again went into the same woods that no longer felt welcoming. After walking I found the spot where the well should have been. But in my horror it was gone. My dad at this point thought I was lying. Together we went back to the house. I went to bed that night questioning everything I thought I ever knew about the world. Once upon a time, in a small, quiet town nestled deep within the woods, lived a grief-stricken parent, Mr. Thompson. My heart ached with unimaginable pain, for I had lost both of my beloved children, Emily and Samuel, in a tragic accident. The weight of their absence had become unbearable, and I was consumed by regret for the decisions I had made that fateful day. Haunted by guilt and desperate to turn back time, I dedicated myself to a dark and forbidden path. Driven by a relentless desire to reunite with my lost children, I immersed myself in ancient texts and arcane rituals, seeking any means possible to bring them back. My ceaseless search led me to an enigmatic kindergarten program rumored to possess mysterious powers, whispered about only in hushed tones among the townsfolk. The school, known as the Forgotten Hollow Kindergarten, was situated at the edge of the forest, shrouded in an aura of eerie silence. Rumors swirled that the school's curriculum was designed to bridge the gap between the living and the dead, granting desperate parents the chance to reconcile with their lost offspring. Entranced by these whispers, I decided to enroll myself in the program, desperate for a chance to amend the tragic past. As I stepped foot into the forgotten halls of the kindergarten, a sinister atmosphere gripped my senses. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and the walls seemed to whisper secrets long lost to time. I was greeted by a pale, somber-faced teacher, Miss Holloway, whose eyes held an uncanny depth that sent shivers down my spine. She spoke with a hushed, almost ethereal voice, explaining the nature of the program. "This is a place of transgressions, Mr. Thompson," she murmured, her voice filled with sorrow. "But be warned, once the veil is pierced, the consequences cannot be undone." Despite the warning, I pressed on, determined to embrace any possibility of reuniting with my children. Day after day, I engaged in macabre rituals and dark lessons, each step plunging me deeper into a realm between the living and the dead. The lines between reality and nightmare blurred, and my sanity wavered under the weight of my insatiable desire. Little by little, the veil between worlds grew thin, and whispers of Emily and Samuel became audible. My hopes surged as I heard their giggles echo through the empty halls. But as their voices grew louder, so too did the ominous presence lurking within the shadows. Unbeknownst to me, my actions had caught the attention of a malevolent force, a vengeful spirit that preyed on the desperate yearnings of grief-stricken parents. The entity, known as the Tormented One, had feasted on the hopes of countless souls, their agonized pleas serving as its sustenance. In the dead of night, as I ventured deeper into the forbidden realms, I found myself face to face with the embodiment of my darkest fears. The Tormented One, a ghastly figure draped in tattered garments, whispered chilling promises of reunion, its voice a sickening blend of my children's innocent laughter and anguished cries. But as the creature extended its skeletal hand, my instincts kicked in, a glimmer of rationality piercing through my anguish. I realized the true horror of what I had become and the consequences my actions could unleash upon the world. With newfound determination, I mustered all my strength and fled from the clutches of the vengeful spirit, tearing myself away from the abyss of despair. The Forgotten Hollow Kindergarten collapsed into a spectral void, its existence erased from the fabric of reality. Haunted by the memory of my children and the horrors I had witnessed, I returned to my empty home, forever tormented by my desperate quest. The weight of regret remained, but I vowed to honor my children's memory by dedicating myself to helping others overcome their grief without resorting to forbidden paths. And so, the tale of Mr. Thompson serves as a chilling reminder that some doors, once opened, should never be crossed, for the darkness they unleash may consume not only oneself but all that is held dear.